In the last video, we looked at how we can use a form to interact with a route that will use Mongoose to insert stuff into our database. So you should be looking at all the stuff I see here now. If you're not, go and fire up your web server, go and open up your app in VS Code, make sure that the events page will load, and make sure that you see a couple of events registered in the database that we did so, and we did that through the form. And if you don't see all of that stuff, then go back and look at the last video, and if you do see that stuff, we're ready to go on. So it's all very well to have a couple of events now living in our database, but that's no good to the user. They'll add stuff in here, and we want to see it listed here in our events page, see what events we're able to compete in. So I'm going to put a new one in here, standing jump. When we see that, when we add this, we'll see it go to the database, but what we really want to see is that it ends up here in this list. So I'm going to add it. Oh, need to be logged in. We learned that in the last lesson, AA. I'm going to go back to my events page. Standing jump should still be in the list there somewhere. That's great. I'm going to add that to the database. We saw the web server fire up. The post event was sent to the web server, and in our database we'll now see, of course, once we refresh this, we see that third standing jump record in our database. Great. So how do we get it to be listed here? Well, it's all got to do with the view. Let's have a look. It's got to do with the route and the view. So I've got some snippets for this lesson. First thing we're going to do is have a look at the route snippet, and all of these are in 06F. So grab that and open it up in text edit, and let's get this part of the snippet, the request, the route stuff. Copy that, and I want you to open up your events route. Great. And all the way down here at the bottom, I'll just make this a bit bigger, all the way down at the bottom of this route, do you remember we had this original route that we stole from the index page? We're going to replace this with the stuff that we copied from our snippet. So I'm just going to paste that snippet code in here below so you can see them both. What's going to happen is we're going to replace this get request, which is the get the events request. You can see all I'm doing is I've written the same thing here, so this is going to be replaced by what happens here. So rather than, oh, we see the events page do this, we're going to say, oh, we see the events page do all of this. All right, so I'm going to delete this homepage stuff. Off it goes, and I'm going to save it. So the first thing that's happening here is very interesting. You'll remember that I was able to get to the events page, but I wasn't able to put anything into it because I wasn't logged in. So let's take that one step further and reuse our helper code here to say if they're not logged in, let's not let them get at the events page at all. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. The next thing that's going to happen is we're going to use Mongoose to do a find. So Mongoose is a package that we installed that it interacts between Node.js and our MongoDB server, and it's going to use its find function to get back all of the events in the database and store them in a list called events. So if that works, if there's no errors, then this route is going to send us to the events page, and it's going to send along that list of events here. So save that, and we'll see that working if we then take the pug snippet down here. Just copy this for now, copy all of this, and we're going to go and look at our pug, our events view. There it is, and it's all the way down the bottom here is the code we're going to look at. So this code at the moment is what is displaying this list here. So this is a list view, a list group. So the list group is the whole box here, and every line in that list group is a list group item. So I know I had that stuff copied already, but I'm going to copy and paste this line a few times so you can see that if I do that, those items get added to the list by just saving the pug and then refreshing the page. Of course, we just said that in our route we're not going to let the user see that page anymore unless they're logged in. So I'll log myself in, and you can see that those items were added to the list. I can take them out just as easily. I said, by deleting them. Delete. and saving my pug and refreshing this page. Still logged in, that's great. And I can add another one at the bottom by copying a line here and just adding it underneath, great. And I can make the text say something new, new item, beautiful, save that, refresh my page, and new item comes at the bottom here. So we want this list not to be static, not to be something that's just a list out of here. We want this list to be we want this list to be grown dynamically from the list of events that we passed into the page. So that's where the other part of this comes in. So go back to the snippet. In fact, we'll just take this last piece here, these last 2 lines, okay? Just take those last 2 lines. And you saw how I was able to add new ones here. Let's take out all of these list items, and I'll paste in what I took from the snippet. Oh, let's undo that actually. Let's just paste it in at the very bottom here so we can see what's happening. I'm going to paste it on a new line like this, and we can see what's going to happen. We passed in a list of events to this page. So every time you find an event in the events list, now this I is just the number of times we've been through this loop. This is called a loop. So for every time you find an event in the incoming events list, let's put a new list group item, but rather than static text, let's call it dynamically whatever the current event name is. So we're going to loop through all of the events in the list, and each time we find a new one, we'll add a list group item, and with that event in hand, we'll place its name into the text area of this list item. All right, so I'm going to take out all of this stuff, make sure that we're tabbed in nicely. So this div owns the list group, and this list group owns the loop, and this loop owns the list group items. So if your code looks like this now, save it, and let's go back and refresh our page, our events page. Just click on the events page, and sure enough, it lists all of our events from the database. Let's just recap what's happening here. Whether we hit the page fresh or whether we add a new event here, we're going to hit this route. And this route is the get route. It's going to say, open up the database and find all of the events in the events group, and then save those in a list and pass it back to the events view. The events view says, all of those events that just came in here, loop through them all, go through all of them, and one at a time, add a list group item to this list group, and for each one, give it the name of the current event in hand. Beautiful. So let's add one more event, and we'll see that whether we hit this page or add it from here, let's call, what's another one? Let's call this one, the triple jump, that's another one. Triple jump, that's another event. So the triple jump is here. When I hit add, we'll know that the route back here, the route says, let's go to the route. We'll know already that we're going to hit a post request, and for the add page, it's going to add this to the database. It's going to add triple jump to the database, and it's going to send us back to the events page. And that's going to be a get request, simple get request, a redirect. And when it gets there, it's going to say, all right, you just added it. We already added it. So now get all of the events that are in there, including the one we just added, and send us back again to the events page with a list of all the events in the database. Our view is then going to loop through them all and add each one to an event list. All right, so everything's saved. I just need to hit add, and we'll see all of that happen in the background, and triple jump becomes the 4th item in our events list.